Hi class, this is in continuation of discussion 4 for step number 3. I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and I know that SAS can be tricky at first, but for step number 3 it's basically about running some procedures in SAS in order to analyze the data set. And that is the data set that we went through for steps 1 and 2, the one from the Excel file or Google Sheets. So you should be by now with this step right here of having an open your SAS open. So if you haven't gone through those tutorial sites about SAS, basically SAS has 3 windows right here. One is the code where you actually enter the code, the programming code to run statistical analysis in SAS, or to manipulate the data set, or to transform the data, or to do anything else, naming variables and so on, in doing something with the data set. The next window, the log, is basically where it's going to keep track of, SAS is going to keep track of all your steps. And you can even save your logs for future use. It's always good to go back, or maybe you want to show the results, even error messages to someone, and you can save these logs rather easily, like save log as, and then you can just save that file. The other window is the results window, and this is where you're going to be seeing all the statistical results. For example, if you tell SAS in your code that you want to create a graph, then the graph is going to turn up right here in the results window. So that's practically it. That it's pretty easy, but it definitely takes time to handle all these 3 windows. And then the other one where we have the menu of options, so we can go back to our data set under my folders and see that here's the Excel file that we initially saved. But let me get out of this one. And so right now, let me close program 1 and show you that in case you have your window right here that is blank on the right side, then to actually start a program, you go to Task and Utilities, and then double click SAS Program, and that is going to open up everything blank for you: code, log, and results. And then you can manually enter your code, so you can start manually entering that. But that's obviously all the programming code that you need to know about SAS. And going back to class discussion number 3, I gave you here just beginning steps about even how to import the data file. So we do have that data set in Excel with access through SAS, but now we need to import it into our SAS platform right here. And the step to do that, either you can do it like going through import data, but the code for it, I think that's what we need to know is the basic step about importing the data set. And any procedure where we're going to be telling SAS to do something, we need to start with the proc procedure. And then the rest is just code that we need to follow based on SAS. But the first one, proc import data file, that's the standard one. And then this is basically what I modify right here. This is telling SAS where to find my data set in my folders, and here's a data set. And then out basically means the worksheet that I'm going to be using for in SAS for my data set. And I want to title this worksheet like my discussion 4. And this is kind of like a temporary worksheet that SAS uses. Once we tell SAS, the first step, use this file, this data set, and then we specify, well, we're going to be using this worksheet right here, my discussion 4, which I just named my discussion 4. You can name it anything that you want. And then this other one, this is telling the program that we have an Excel type of file, which is XLSX. And then any proc procedure needs to end with run. If you don't have run, then it's not going to do the procedure. So I'm just going to copy this into my SAS code right here, the code window. I'll paste this there. So like I said, you can change this, you can name it anything you want. I just like discussion 4, or doesn't really matter, but I just kept my discussion. Oh, forgot what I exactly, let me look at that. My discussion 4. So my discussion 4, that's what I enter. And this is where I have my current Excel file path under folders, and then my folders, and then the file name. In case you don't know, for yours, so for example, if this is mine, just get rid of it. And then go to server files and folders, select where you place under my folders that Excel file, and then right click, do a right click and select properties. That will tell you the location in SAS of your Excel file. So you can just copy this just to make sure, copy that, and then put it back here. You need to make sure that you start with quotation marks right there, and you end with quotation marks. And then, so that's the very first step, that you need to tell SAS how to get that data set. So then you select the whole, all these code lines. So we have 9. You don't need to have spaces there, actually. I can just get rid of those spaces. You can put the run over here. Run and then semicolon, or down here, doesn't really matter, but basically this semicolon is saying that, well, now you start another different command right there, but you need to end your first proc with a run right here. And then to run this, you select these 7 lines, or all your lines, and then you hit this little man running. This is basically telling now SAS to run the code. So once you do that, it's going to give you the results of your procedure, which in this case, I was just telling SAS to grab that data set from Excel and to store it temporarily here in work.mydiscussion4. And then, as you can see, gives you the variable names and the whole data set. And if you go to your log, the log, like I said, is where is going to keep track of whatever you're doing, results, error message, right? For example, it took 17 seconds to run that. And then going back here, so just to review this is the first step for importing the data into your SAS platform. And then once you have it, your code set up, like I said, you just need to run all these 7 lines by clicking this little person who's running. And then once you do that, you're going to get in your log, if there was any an error or something, you'll get those error messages right here. So it looks like everything went fine. We have 1,247 observations, and then the results of your if you're running some analysis will show up right here, but right now we're not running any analysis. And then the output data, this is basically what we needed as a result. So we have here output data. The next step that I have here for your code, so once you have that, okay, so let's see the results below on a screen. Basically, we want to proc print the data. We want to see how that data looks like. So I just copy this, go back to my SAS code page, and paste this. And you have to use this syntax, data equals work, that is required by SAS. And then this, like I said, has to be exactly what you used before. And then run, like I said, as whenever you use a proc statement, you have to end it with run and a semicolon. And then you highlight this and again run that little person. And now it's going to give you the results, so just wait a few seconds. And going back to that, this is about looking at the data set in the SAS window. We don't have to really do that every time that we have a data set, but I just want you to see it, how it looks in SAS. So here's the code again. Oh, there. It was reading it. Sorry. So that's the code, what we run, and then this is the result. So under results, this is the data set that I wanted to print on the screen. So we have exactly our data set, and even you can scroll all the way down and see the full data set. But obviously, we don't want to be doing that in SAS all the time with our data set, but sometimes it helps just to see it here. The next procedure first that I gave you is about computing averages. And this is what I want to explain next. If you see a statement, a line that starts with a slash and then like 2 stars, basically the star, this is saying that this is not a procedure, this is not a command, this is just a note, like a little note that you're typing into your code. Let me go back, copy this, and go back to the code page. Okay, so let me put it back. Let me put it down here. And in my screen, it looks green. Basically, this, the slash, and then this statement right here, this is what I wrote. This is my note. I can write like notes. Doesn't really matter what I write here, but you have to end it with the same thing, that we're telling SAS that this is not a command, this is nothing, this is just for us to keep track of our procedures. And this is very useful for programmers. I'm sure you have seen it in other platforms. And then here's my statement. So for this one, we just want to compute averages. If we go back to our data set, let me see. So we have the data set by country, by year, and then the literacy rate for every country for those specific years. So let's suppose that we want to analyze the average for literacy rate, but only for those countries where the literacy rate is more than 50% or 50. And then here we're gonna say proc means, and then the same thing to specify where our data is, the sheet with the data that we want to use. And then, like I said, keep it consistent. So my discussion 4, which is the one that I specified over here, the data set. And then var is for the variable that I want to analyze. I want to analyze literacy rates. And then where is another syntax statement. So I want to say where literacy rate is more than 50. And this is just an example. We don't have to do it more than 50. We can just compute the means of literacy rates in general, but let's suppose that we want to do that. So we highlight this, run the little person, and that will give you the results. So this is basically the statistical output. And this, as you can see, all these options you can save. You can download this as an HTML file. You can save it as a PDF or Word, or you can even copy this as well and save it into and paste it into some other platform. Or we can print the results. And then your log, as you can see, there are no errors, so everything went fine. Usually with errors, there's something in red.